On, guys? Subscriber request. They requested the top 3, but I moved it to top 6. So let me know if the internet connection's good. Obviously, if you're watching this video after it's been loaded, you would have seen this afterwards. But this was a popular request that's been kind of growing little by little. It was the top 3 most difficult vehicles that I've ever worked on. How are you, Bob? Can you hear me good? I'm outside right now, so I'm hooked up to the Wi-Fi. I want to make sure there's no interruption. It says I got like 90% reception, so that should be good. But one of the vehicles, 2014 Focus, we're going to talk about. Another one is a 2020 green Mustang. Some of you are familiar with that. The one that was sitting in my stall forever. Another one is a 2020 Explorer, Cop Explorer. And then 2017 F-150 no start, and 2011 Mustang GT with a key fob issue, programming a key fob. 2014 Focus had issues with communication and random, basically. Drivability issue with a harness. There was a harness problem. And then the last one is a 2019 3.5 liter EcoBoost for, believe it or not, an oxygen sensor issue. So these are 6. What did I get? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I said 6. There's 7. Sorry. Obviously, I can't count on my own scratch sheet right here. I just wrote down some quick notes. And we're just going to roll in the order that I just mentioned things on, basically. I'm going to actually make Bob I'm going to make Bob a moderator. He's here all the time. I need a moderator when I'm on because there's people that get on here and then they start clowning around. Jam Ram's on here. Make Jam Ram. Jam Ram made you a moderator if you don't mind. If you do mind, then I'll remove it, but I'm pretty sure okay. And I made Bob a moderator. You guys are always on here supporting me, so I figure I trust you guys. Why not? So I had a 2014 Focus, and this is going to be, I'm going to roll with my list because if I get off track and I start answering a bunch of other questions, I'll save that for the end. Then I'll never get through my list. But I've worked on everything, man. I've worked on internationals, Peterbilts. I've worked on farm equipment, pumping stations and farm fields, conveyor belts at grain and fertilizer facilities that mix and transfer fertilizer. Drove a truck for the same companies hauling, 70, 80,000 pounds of fertilizer out to the farmers and stuff. And then turn around and go back and get back in the shop and start wrenching again. Volvos, GMs, Chryslers. I mean, I pretty much do it all, but I specialize in Ford stuff. That's what I specialize in. The first vehicle that I want to talk about, just so I can keep track of this live chat here. 2014 Ford Focus. There was actually a person that they messaged me on here and they said, hey, I'm having a real big issue, and this is what brought this up. They said I have a newer EcoBoost Escape, and it'll start to run and it'll run fine, but then all of a sudden it dies. And I've checked everything. I can't seem to figure out what it is. Well, this is what brought this to my mind. I said, wait a second, I've had the same 2-liter non-turbo motor in the past. So basically what it was a 2014 Ford Focus came in the shop, and it would start. Sometimes it wouldn't start, actually. Sometimes it wouldn't even start, and sometimes it would start. And I tracked it down to no communication with the PCM, obviously. So I'm trying to run codes. I can't get codes. I can't get anything. So I had to put a PCM in it. It wouldn't even communicate. All the wires tested out fine. There was no abnormal resistance or anything. I just could not communicate with the PCM. What's up, man? So I put a PCM in it, woke everything back up, came back online. I'm communicating with the PCM. And I finally get the vehicle to start and run, but it will only run for about 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30 if I'm lucky, if it's a cool day. It'll run for about 30 minutes and then it'll die. And I said, what the heck is going on here, man? I'm not getting any kind of abnormal codes. And then after about 2 days of messing with this thing, I started getting a crank sensor code. It would say, cannot detect cranking RPM or something like that. So I said, damn it, man, I don't get it. And I'm checking the wires, I'm checking the harness and stuff, because the Focus is, and some of the Fiestas and the Escapes where the wiring harness runs along the throttle body, it will actually rub through at the throttle body and it will cause some comm issues. So I'm tearing apart the harness and stuff in there, and I'm looking at the harness. I can't find anything wrong with the harness. So I said, I'm just going to put a crank sensor in this thing. The only thing I could think of is after this thing is started up and it's running real good, throttle response is real good, is that magnetic pickup inside the crank sensor will keep sending this top dead center signal. It'll see top dead center, but after it starts to run 10, 15, 20 minutes, it gets so hot that it breaks its connection inside the field, right? Inside the magnet set up inside. And when it's doing this over and over and over again, eventually as it runs, it gets hot and it doesn't communicate anymore. On a whim, I got lucky just by my experience and stuff like that, and what my professionalism and it just, even just common sense thought is, if it's not the wires and there's no other hard faults going on, why not just replace the crank sensor? So I started the vehicle up, I turned the data logger on, I pull up all the PIDs, I'm reading short term, long term, and then I'm looking at my RPM as it's running, and then all of a sudden the RPM drops off the screen completely and then it dies. But everything else was communicating fine. All of a sudden code pops up, cranking or running RPM, can't see crank RPM, crank signal. So that's what it is. It's a damn crank sensor. But the codes weren't even leading me back to the crank sensor. The codes were having me check wiring harnesses, connections, all this other stuff. All that stuff checked out. But it never ran me to a point where it said, using the Ford pinpoint test, replace the crank sensor. So I go into the parts room and I say, give me a crank sensor. Well, we don't have one. It's 2 days out. Just like typical Ford. I'm sure some of you guys know. Don't have any damn parts in stock. I'm used to every dealer I freaking go to. That's all the time. Don't have it. 2 days out, 1 day out, back order. Oh, we got to get it from another dealer. It's like, what the heck, man? So I actually go out to the lot with another vehicle that's waiting to be fixed. Hasn't even been brought in the shop yet for some kind of major issue. And I pull the crank sensor off of it. I use the alignment tool and I snap it over the body of the crank sensor, put it right back in the holes, and then I snug the bolts down and then pull my alignment tool off, fired up, vehicle never shut off again. It was completely fine. The crank sensor was breaking down internally, but the pinpoint test for the code that was being triggered never ran me back to the actual problem. That, to replace the sensor. It never said anything about it. That's the joy of having to run through Ford's pinpoint test sometimes, because sometimes the Ford pinpoint tests, honestly, are complete trash. It's like you have to know something about what you're working with, because the people that designed the vehicle and put it together, and you expect the technician to just magically pull something out of thin air by following your pinpoint test. A lot of times those pinpoint tests are garbage and they don't even work. They'll get you in a general area, but there's a lot of times I found, like over the last 10 years, where they just are trash. They don't point you in the right direction. You start running in circles like you're a dog chasing your tail. So, I just had to go with what I thought. I pulled the data logger up. I'm the one that put the PIDs up there. I went through the harness myself and stuff like that. I'm thinking to myself, if everything checks out, it's got to be the crank sensor. And sure enough, it was the crank sensor. The verifying part was, while it's running, everything else is keeping up live feeding on live data. I can see everything responding back. But as soon as that crank sensor code popped, and then all of a sudden it died, I knew exactly what it was. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. So with that particular vehicle, I was able to get that sensor and stuff in there and put in, but the customer was so upset with the situation, and he was so mad at Ford for the whole entire situation, that he wanted to be done with the vehicle. Even though he owned it, it was a 2-liter non-turbo, great running vehicle. It did have that crappy DPS clutch or whatever, the torque shift setup, but it was a good car. It was a good vehicle. The 2-liter non-turbo focus. I mean, you could run those things into the ground. And the only thing you have to worry about is that clutch system. But that is a really, really good vehicle. Easy to maintain, great fuel mileage. I recommend anybody getting one as long as you can get by with the clutch. That automatic controlled manual clutch style system. It's a great vehicle. The guy was so mad about having to put a PCM in it, then having keys programmed, and the crank sensor, that it was like a week later, I see that vehicle back out in the lot. And I was like, hey, wait a second, did that thing break? What did I do wrong? Did I not fix the problem? You know, then you start really questioning yourself. You start questioning your ability to actually fix things. Like, I feel bad if I've made mistakes, but I feel bad. And I looked at that car with the amount of time that I spent on that car, which was days and days. I was like, I feel terrible that the customer's car is back. And they were like, no, actually the customer got so mad that they just decided they didn't want the vehicle anymore. So they ended up trading the vehicle in. They got some other, I think it was a 2.5 liter Escape, which was a better choice anyway. Great motor, no issues, no problems, no nothing like that at all. So how do you keep accessory mode when you have push to start and want radio to stay on for more than 5 minutes? Push the button one time. every couple minutes or something, touch something in the vehicle, or actually turn your auto timer off through the cluster. A lot of them you can go through the cluster and you can turn the auto shut off, or you can move it out like 30 minutes or something like that, and it won't shut off. Any of you follow the channel long enough to remember the green Mustang that has been sitting in my stall for like 6 weeks? I'm sure some of you guys remember that, don't you? Because if some of you do, then it was a 2020 Mustang. That 2020 Mustang that they bought at auction, and nobody picked up that the vehicle had been in a crash. But when you put the vehicle up in the air and you lift it up and you look at the paint on an angle, you can see how the surface of the bumper was all like orange peely, all down the bumper. It had like a big orange peel effect underneath the clear. And then when I pulled the bumper off, I'm looking down at the active shutter grill assembly, and it was broken, literally. It was broken, and then all of a sudden it would turn on and off by itself, and it would just go all wacky. Well, whenever you have a restraint event set in the computer, you can't just automatically, fix the issue and expect it to go away. The restraint control module, a lot of times it will save that safety event, and you have to send it to an electronic specialist to get it cleared, which Ford doesn't do that. Or you got to replace the restraint control module. So I'm going through and I'm trying to fix everything. I get the new module programmed, I get all the new shutter assembly put in, I replace everything that I found that was broken, and then I start searching into what's going on, and I find out that a rental company down in Florida owned it for 6 months before they sold it, which means somebody probably damaged it, had it all fixed and repaired so the police or nobody was involved, never got put on the Carfax, and then they turn around and sold it at auction. It's common practice. So you don't know what you're getting sometimes unless you really know what to look for. So we get everything put back together, tip-top shape, all brand new parts, all the module put in, vehicle's running great. A couple key cycles later, all of a sudden it pops back up saying it doesn't like the resistance that it's seeing in the circuit. So I get the harness and everything tore apart inside it. I get all the resistances checked. There's no resistance issues, and I can't figure out the problem. I literally cannot figure out what's going on because everything checks out. What does Ford tell me? I said, there's one thing that I don't like. In the middle of this pinpoint test, it says to unplug this connector and unplug this connector and check the resistance in the circuit. But when you check the resistance in the circuit, if the PCM is plugged in, it doesn't check out. It's not the right resistance. As soon as you unplug the PCM, the resistance goes back into spec. So I get on the hotline with Ford, and I send them the message. I explain everything that's going on with this vehicle, and they're like, yeah, we can confirm that you are right. It does look like there's a step or something missing right in the pinpoint test. That doesn't make sense because it doesn't say to unplug the PCM to check the resistance between these two other connectors. But it doesn't make sense for, if it's plugged in, if the pinpoint test is pointing you in the right direction, it doesn't say unplug it. I'm trying to read. Anyway, it says it doesn't say to unplug it, but If it's plugged in, it doesn't read right. But if you unplug it, it doesn't read right. So I'm like, this doesn't check out, man. There's just something wrong here. So you know what their answer was to me? Go pull another like Mustang in and tear it apart and do the same thing. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You know how much stuff I had to tear apart to get to these connectors and everything? I got the whole interior of this Mustang tore out of it. The whole convertible top sides, the back, the seats out of it and everything, looking for wiring problems. This doesn't make any sense at all. They said, yep, that's the only thing we got for you right now. We can't help you in this situation unless we send out an engineer, but we're not at that point yet. So basically, pull another vehicle in, disassemble it, and compare like products. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm literally not going to do that. So what I did was I just went through the entire harness from the BCM, back along the passenger side, up towards the convertible top, across the back by the seats, and then down through the center console where the RCM and stuff is, and then back to the driver's side along the rocker panel area and stuff on the inside of the car. And Archie. And then back to the front of the vehicle to check the connections and everything. I just moved every single pin that I could find. I just pulled them all in. I just took a little thin pick that I went to the grinder and I just made super, super thin. And I went around each one of the spots and just pulled them all in nice and tight. And just snugged everything up. Hey! Here! Dogs next door causing problems. These German Shepherds come out and they try to blast underneath the fence, and we got 2 dogs over here. Be good, buddy. Anyway, I put everything back together and I left the vehicle down. I've left the vehicle down this entire time. And I didn't think about, just going through and just tightening up every single connection that I can possibly, even connections that didn't have anything to do with that circuit at all. I just went through and started tightening everything up. And every time I found a pin that I felt could just be a little bit loose with the drag test, I just kept tightening pins up, and then I left it down for a long time. Archie, no. Archie, hey. So I've left it down for, what was it, like almost 4 or 5 weeks, not moving any further with it, thinking that maybe just tightening up those pins wasn't enough. So what did I end up doing? I got fed up with it, and I was going to put the vehicle back outside, thinking that me tightening up those pins didn't do anything. I thought for sure I didn't fix the problem, and I gave up on it. I got discouraged, and I said, you know what, I'll come back to it because I'm not going to be able to fix this thing. I actually started talking myself out of fixing the problem, convincing myself that I didn't fix the problem. Well, I hooked everything back up, made sure all the connections were tight, battery was charged up real good, no problems at all. Tightening up all these pins, whatever pin it was the exact problem that was the fix for the problem. It was a nightmare. I didn't know what was going on with that Mustang because it was an electrical nightmare. The pinpoint test wasn't leading me anywhere. I wasn't about to tear apart another vehicle to fix the problem when I could have run into the same specs, but it was simply a pin fitment issue somewhere in the harness that just fixed the problem. That's what it was. And I don't know what pin it was. I just know it's fixed, and it hasn't come back in 2 weeks now. The light's been off. The vehicle's been running fine. General manager's been driving it. Sales manager's been driving it. Not a single issue. Archie! Archie! Come here. So that was the fix to the Mustang. It's been fine. I'm hoping I don't see that vehicle again. I'd never want to work on another Mustang again after that Mustang. I learned so much about that car in such a frustrated type fashion. I know more about Mustangs now than I care to even know. Just going through harnesses and pages and connectors and pinpointing where things are at and how to get vehicle the center console apart without pulling the whole thing out of it. I've taught myself just working on that Mustang and being so frustrated for weeks that I can do so much on that car without having to pull everything apart. Just because I got so frustrated trying to figure things out, I know exactly how to tear that thing apart, and I could have the whole interior out of that Mustang, including the carpet, in probably an hour. Everything, the seats out, carpet out, center console out. I didn't get paid on the job yet because the paperwork and everything has to jive. Everything's got to get turned in. They don't want to close the ticket out yet because they really want to make sure that the light doesn't come back on. And then once everything does come back on, then I'll be able to try to reclaim some of that time. But as of right now, it's fixed. It hasn't come back. But we don't want to close anything out yet until we know for sure that it's not coming back. I want it completely out of my hair with no worry, no frustration, no nothing at all. So it's been weeks now. Everything's fine. So Monday or Tuesday, I'll close out the paperwork and everything on it and get paid on the job. But these are those situations where it's like you just want to walk away, man. You get so frustrated with stuff. Sometimes you're just like, man, why am I doing this? Why do I work and keep doing this type of stuff with no help from Ford at all? Sometimes you get no help, zero, and you're on your own, and that's just how it is. And then good luck getting paid for everything. That's one of the biggest problems right now most technicians are having with these dealerships. Hey, is the fact that they're fighting with the managers. They're not with the managers, but with the manufacturer. They're fighting with them, trying to get paid for stuff. The manufacturers don't want to pay for stuff a lot of times. The 701 union and the Automobile Dealer Association group got together and basically sued the manufacturers in the state of Illinois, and they won the first time. And then it passed the second time, and now Pritzker actually signed everything. So our governor did sign the lawsuit and everything, saying that it was legit. And basically what they're stating is, in the state of Illinois, starting January 1st, 2022, the manufacturers will have to pay the same time as customer pay from now on. They're not going to get by with this whole manufacturer 60% of whatever book time is stuff. It's not going to be any more of that. This state will be the first state that says if you're selling a car in the state of Illinois and a technician has to do the work under warranty, they will get paid the same pay as what the customer is going to pay. So if it's a 30-hour job to do it, you're not paying 19 anymore. You're paying 30 hours. So, what was the other one? Time to move on to the next vehicle. Okay, so let's go back into the brand new vehicle so I can brag about how much or how reliable Ford brand new vehicles are, right? So 2020 Ford Explorer 3.3 liter hybrid cop car comes in with check parking brake. Well, parking brake fault won't go away. No matter what I do, I clear, will not go away. I can't. The pinpoint test doesn't apply because the parking brake switch on a cop car is an 8-pin switch. The pinpoint test that's in the computer system for Ford is a 12-pin switch. I'm talking to Ford online, and they're like, yeah, the pinpoint test is not going to help you. We don't have an updated pinpoint test for the cop cars because the circuits are completely different. Some stuff is the same, but you can't go off a pinpoint test for a 12-pin connector in a passenger vehicle. It doesn't apply to a cop car because it doesn't have as many accessories running through it. Wires are in different spots. So what we need you to do is we need you to start overlaying wires back to the ABS module. So I'm like, oh my God, here we go. Why don't I just replace the switch in the vehicle? No, that's not going to fix the problem. This code doesn't pertain to that. And I said, well, it kind of does pertain to that. It's saying that it's some kind of switching resistance that doesn't like that it's seeing. And so they're saying that's not what this, the engineer is basically telling me what he wants me to do. He wants me, what's up with this dude, Marty Bowdry, or whatever? Your ears are sticking out of your head, dude. I don't know if somebody could get rid of him. Just get rid of him completely. Get this clown out of here. I don't need people talking trash to me on here, but they won't say it to my face because I'll knock their teeth out of their mouth. Anyway, this guy, hopefully this guy's going. So 2020 Explorer, I overlay these wires, right? I'm doing exactly what they say for me to do. I'm going from one pin to the computer, one pin, back and forth, back and forth. I overlay every single wire that they wanted me to overlay back to this parking brake switch, and it will not go away. Everything is working fine. The parking brake is setting fine. Apply, release. There's no issue there. I don't see anything that's going on. Um, and I can't figure out. So I've got like, I'm telling you guys, I'm not even lying when I tell you this. It's kind of crazy. I think at the time, before I started to give up, it's like about 15, 16 hours into this thing of pulling wiring harness, this and that. And about 20 hours into it, they said, okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to send an engineer out. So they send this young engineer out that's for this region. He comes out and he meets with me. And he has me start ripping open the harness and stuff in front of him. Pull this connector. Now let's pull this harness back. And then we're looking down inside the connector and we're looking at the PTS website for all the wiring schematics. And he's like, well, this should be here and this should be here. And then we start ripping apart the wiring or the harness based on what we're seeing on the computer. And I'm like, dude, I don't know how many times I've already told you, and I don't know how much experience you have with this, but I've been probably doing this a lot longer than you. I can read a wiring schematic. The stuff that's in this wiring schematic is not in this vehicle harness. I don't know how many times I have to tell you this. And the guy's like, oh, no, do it anyway, because he's the authoritative figure on the job, right? So we're ripping into this harness, exactly what I said. The stuff that it says is in the harness was not in the harness, but the kid would not listen to me. He's probably 25, 26 years old. And I'm like, I don't know if they just hire guys right out of college and say, go have an automotive job, go be an engineer in the field and go tell these guys what to do. But this guy was lost. It seems like most of these engineers that are in this field now, that call themselves automotive engineers or electrical engineers, they don't know anything compared to most techs that have been in the field for 15, 20 years. They're lost. They have no idea. They're smart. They're book smart, but they don't know how to read a wiring schematic correctly. They don't know how to help us in the field correctly. A lot of them have no experience at all, and I've run into this so many times. Down in Louisiana, same thing. In Louisiana, they sent an engineer down there to look at a vehicle with me, and the guy was completely lost. He did not even know how to fix the problem. I was the one that called AutoZone up and said, you know what, I don't want any more Ford alternators. Send me an AutoZone Gold alternator. I stuck it right in the vehicle with a lifetime warranty. The charge light went off. I sent the customer on their way. They never came back. And Ford paid me for all that diagnostic, and they also paid for the AutoZone Gold alternator, and then they apologized for the engineer not being able to help me. So now here we are again. I'm working on this Explorer. This young engineer comes out. He's trying to do what he can, but he won't listen to me. He's keeping notes and everything like that. He maybe spent 45 minutes to an hour with me and then turned around and left. He didn't even want to be there at the shop anymore. Didn't even stay there to do his job until he actually seen the problem out and seen it fixed. He was like, oh yeah, look at this and look at that, and just get back to me and let's see if that was it. The guy didn't even spend any time at the shop. He didn't even do his job as an engineer. Nothing. So basically what I ended up doing is I said, I'm tired of this. About 25 hours into looking for this problem and stuff like that, me keeping track of the records, actually reporting back to the engineering team every single day, hey, I'm getting in the vehicle, I'm starting the vehicle now, this is what I found today. I didn't see anything abnormal, this is what I'm going to move on tomorrow, and I kept them updated throughout the entire time I was working on this vehicle. When I finally had enough, I was right at about 30, 31 hours into this vehicle, and Ford was paying for all of it. They had said, as long as you keep us updated and you keep logging your time and you keep the stories up to date, if we can't help you and you're still working on the vehicle, you're getting paid for everything. That's just how it works. We're not going to decline your pay, but we need communication. Even if we can't help you, you're still going to get paid. So I went into my parts department and I said, you know what? Give me a park brake switch. Order a switch now. I'm not going to wait for it anymore. I don't want to hear it anymore. Just give me the switch. So they order the switch. I take the switch, I stick it in the vehicle, I apply it one time, the code disappears from the dash, disappears out of the computer completely. And I was like, I don't know why these guys at the engineering level or the Ford corporate level won't listen to us. It's like we're chopped liver to them. They don't care about anything that we have to say. It's somebody that thinks they're much better than we are, when a lot of times we actually figure out the problem and they don't even know the problem. That's why I think a lot of technicians in the field should be engineers. They should be the ones that are actually in these seats helping people instead of the people right out of college, because they don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. I don't understand how a lot of these guys even get these jobs and they put them in the field as engineers. A lot of them are lost. The park brake switch was a $20 switch that could have saved them over $3,000 in labor had they have listened to me from the beginning and let me put the switch in there, saying my intuition, my professional, my ability, my experience tells me that this is a switch problem. This doesn't have anything to do with a harness problem. Nope, they didn't want to listen. They paid over $3,000 in labor too. Well, I got paid. I learned a lot about that vehicle, I can tell you that. I learned a lot about that vehicle, and that's why so many people on the internet and some people from other shops get a hold of me, because of how much they see me get frustrated with that vehicle and how much I had to tear apart. A lot of mechanics from other shops, a lot of other service managers and stuff. Um, a lot of guys will say, how do you get this apart in the brand new Explorers? How do you take this apart? Where's this at? Where's that at? Hell, I've already had the upper engine apart on a 2020 Explorer, less than 20,000 miles. Ripping apart valley, injectors out of it, everything else, getting to see how these things work. Cylinder head already, where the valve stems were leaking. Seriously, I mean, just... what else do we want to go to? I covered the Focus. I covered the Green Mustang. I covered the Explorer. Okay, this is an interesting one. This might be for some of the Mustang guys here that really enjoy this type of stuff. So we had a 2011 Mustang come in, and it had a hot tune. I don't know what this guy called it, a hot tune, but he didn't know what it was. At first he told us there was a tune in the vehicle, and then he denied there was a tune in the vehicle. Said he just bought the vehicle previously, and it had a full exhaust system on it, no cats, no nothing, long tube headers, just a very loud and very obnoxious vehicle. I like more clean sounding, like like aggressive American sound when it comes to muscle cars. But when it's just wide open and it's real raspy and loud and nasty, I hate the sound of that thing. So I hated driving this thing in the shop. It was just annoying. And when I get in the shop, I'm trying to communicate with the computer, but I can't communicate with the computer because it's telling me that there's some kind of emissions thing that's been messed with on the vehicle. And then I see on the left side of the screen where it gives you all like the... I'm sorry, I'm not telling the story correctly. I'm able to communicate, but I'm not able to do anything inside the system. That's what it was. I could see the year of the Mustang, the VIN, the mileage, everything else. But where it said emissions level, it said no emissions or aftermarket something for the tune. Normally it'll say like 50 state emissions or something like that. But this did not say that. This had indicated that there has been some tune done to this PCM, and it would not let me access any of the data stuff. It would just show me what was there, and then it said if I want to go to the next screen, do I want to flash the computer? Well, I can't flash the computer because if I flash the computer, I have no way to put it back to where it was at. And I'm not obligated to take a vehicle in the 50 states under the dealer and mod something to a non-emissions compliant, I can't say it right, compliant status. Now, my own vehicle or something like that, that's up to me to do. But I cannot do that to a customer's vehicle because that's not legal. So we contact the guy, we notify him, hey, I can't get into this computer to access the your PAT system, your body system, so I can get into the PAT security system to program this additional key that you're asking for. We're going to have to put a PCM in this thing. He said, why? I said, well, when you came in here, you told us there was some kind of tuning that we should be able to access the computer. But then he backtracks and says, oh, no, you guys must have done something in my computer because there's no tune in that. Well, you told us when it came here. It says right on the RO that you signed that there's a tune in the computer. Well, I never told you that. Maybe you guys misheard. I never said that. Well, we got to put a PCM in it now. Unless you have the original SCTX4 or whatever it was that actually tuned this thing, I need that to pull the tune out and put the factory tune back in, or at least bring me something with the tune, and just to get you out of my hair, I'll put it back the way it was. And the guy was like, yeah, I don't have any of that. I don't have a tuner. I don't know what you're talking about. If something's wrong with my PCM, that's not my fault. That's your fault. So I'm like, okay, let's just get a PCM for this thing. And I don't know, this guy's going to play some kind of legal issue against us and says he's going to get the police involved and all this other stuff. And now when you try to start the vehicle, it won't even start because we've been in the computer system and it set the security system off because of this tune that's in there. There's all kinds of stuff going on with this thing. Now I can't get the key to work to start it. So my boss is like, you know what? Just get the PCM. Let's get this guy out of our hair. We don't want to have to deal with this stuff. We don't want the shop to have a bad rep. We don't want another customer aggravated with us. So sometimes if your manager is a little bit of a pushover, they'll eat the $500 or $600 for a PCM, and Um, hey, just so you guys know, John Wick Wayne, he's one of our good subscribers. So that message that he left, this guy's a piece of work. He's talking about the guy that I'm speaking of is a piece of work. That's all. He wasn't talking about me. I know you guys are trying to protect me, but some of these guys, they really do care about me and us here in general. So, um, just so anyway, we get the PCM, we put it in the vehicle, I get everything programmed, everything's communicating right, but I can't get the freaking vehicle to start. I'm like, why won't the original key? It's fine, Bob. You're just trying to protect me. I get it. Why won't the computer program? The computer will not program in this thing. I cannot get this computer to program. Like, I got the PCM programming in, but I can't get the key. I can't do anything with the key at all. The PAT system won't program the key. Nothing is programming this freaking key. Listen to this. I didn't fix the car. I'm going to take credit for it, though, because I did the work. I did not fix the car, but I'm going to tell you what ended up happening. One of the old timers across the shop, he's really, really, really good with electronics, specific things, not like programming and all this other stuff. But what he did do was he said, wait a second, I remember there's a way we can actually go through that immobilizer in the back. And I'll hook he's got some kind of like $700 fluke meter that can read all these different readings and stuff that regular meters can't read. And he's like, I bought this meter back in the day and it reads temperature, it can pick up audible, like it can pick up hertz from sounds. When you can actually touch through your voltmeter, you can touch different areas to get different frequency feedback, and it will convert it into a reading on your screen, so you can figure out as you get closer and closer to these sounds. There's some kind of animal behind me move. Ever since I got stung by those bees out here, I'm deathly afraid of whatever's out here. Anyway, he says, I'll come show you how to do this. So he comes over there and he pulls the lower shroud out from underneath the steering wheel, and he takes one of those back probe pins and he slides it in the immobilizer in 2 of the slots, and he's got a readout. And he says, now go into the system, go into your electronics feature group, and then go in there and try to find where the key's at. And it should tell you when the keys turn forward at what frequency the key is supposed to be reading at. So I go in there and I'm looking at all the different criteria and stuff, and it says this particular model should be reading at 80 hertz frequency, and that's how the immobilizer knows everything is communicating fine, and that's the signal it's putting out and all this other stuff. And he says, look what it's reading here on the meter. It's reading 40, half of what it's supposed to be. And he says, let's go back in there to the key box and let's actually get another key cut and see if we got the right key. So we go in there into the key box. You know, it's a brand new key that we're trying to program to this thing. And we pull the key out of the parts box. We have the parts guy cut it. And he says, go out there and try this now and see if it's still reading. It's reading 40 hertz. And he said, okay, so what we need to do is we need to take every single key inside that box. Take the whole box out there to the vehicle and put every one of those Mustang keys right next to that immobilizer, and use the main key, turn it forward, and just hold the body to the steering wheel. 40, 40, 40. And then the rest of them were all 80. And he said, there, bingo, there we go. So those 5 or 6 that we found, throw those over in a bag, because they're gonna end up going in the trash. Not really to the trash, but they're gonna go back to the guy that vendored those to us, because they're trash. All those other ones that are in the box with the same part number, those are the right keys that are supposed to be in that bin. I can almost tell you what happened. So I go get a good key that's reading at the right hertz, and I asked the parts guy, can you go cut this for me? And he's like, again? And I was like, yeah. Dude, you got 6 fucking bad keys out there that are trash. Where did you get these keys from? Well, our vendor, he got them. He gave us a better deal than what we normally were getting. I wonder why he gave you a better deal than what you're normally getting. Because they're cheap Chinese junk. They're not the ones that are supposed to be vendored to us. We're supposed to be getting the authentic ones from Ford, not this Chinese junk shit. And I threw them in a bag and I tied them up on a counter, and I put them on the counter. They called the vendor up, and the vendor was like, yeah, I mean, I ordered from a different place, but I thought they were real. I thought they were authentic. And they were like, no, go back to getting the Ford ones that you get through the Ford specified supplier, not this crap that you gave us. That ain't gonna work. The next time you do this, you're out. We're not gonna have you supplying us OEM Ford parts if this is what you're going to do. So now all of our stuff is ordered directly from Ford, just because we can't take a chance. We let this guy order the stuff from Ford, but instead somehow certain keys were knockoffs in OEM packages. So I actually went and got another key cut, went right back out to the vehicle, turned the key forward, went into my PAT system, did the 10-minute timeout for the security check, programmed an additional key, locks went up, down, no problem, started the vehicle right up. Not a single issue. Yeah, that additional key that we had cut, even though I put the PCM in and everything was working completely fine, but it wouldn't program the additional key, that locked me out of the security system. I didn't even know it. So that's why the original key wouldn't go back and actually start the ignition. I had to go through all these different keys before I got a good key, and then finally it unlocked everything, and I was able to get into the vehicle, made the customer happy. He didn't pay a dime for anything. The dealership ate the whole entire thing, even though the customer was originally lying about stuff. Now he has a vehicle with long tube headers and no cats, which eventually a check engine light's going to pop on. It's all been programmed back to factory, that he's going to have to go spend a lot of money on catalytic converters and everything for it and get it all fixed, because this guy didn't have the right programming to put back in it. Oops. Anyway, well, honestly, the other day that a guy brought in a key that he got off Amazon, and it looked just like an OEM key. He said I paid like $50 for it instead of $175 through the dealer. And I literally went right into the parts room, cut the key for me, went right out to the vehicle, turned it on, programmed the key, no problem at all. Everything worked completely fine. This was on an Escape. This just happened. Beautiful. No issues at all. Program went right through. Now, about 3 weeks ago, another guy did the same thing, an Escape, a key off Amazon. Or was it an F-150? It was an F-150. No, it wasn't. What was it? 2010 Navigator. That's what it was, a 2010 Navigator. Had the key cut, went out there, programmed the key to the vehicle would start, no problem at all, but when I would go push the buttons on the pad, it would not respond. You can pull up the data logger to see if it's getting a signal or anything from the key, would not respond. It was a cheap Amazon key, so it did pass the security check enough to unlock the doors and enough to start the ignition, but it would not communicate with the module through the pad. It was no good. It was a bad, cheap key, but it was enough to get him in the vehicle. And then he said, that's really all I want. I'll just pay the half hour to program the key, whatever you have into it, and then I don't care about it. I'm not unlocking the doors. I don't need that. I was like, are you kidding me? The guy bought this key for it to function, and it doesn't even function. And then he's like, no big deal. At least it starts the vehicle and unlocks the doors. Okay, it's on you, buddy. Not my key. It's not my money. Probably paid $12 for the key. Who knows? But he got his, well, then he had to pay $25 to have him cut it, and then he had to pay me a half hour labor to go into the computer system. Hey, what's going on, man? From Mokina, I know exactly where that's at. I was down by you today. Next vehicle. 2014 Focus. I'm getting all these codes for I don't remember what every single code is for. Some of them were for communication. Some of them were for it was like live feedback from crank signal. It was oxygen sensor stuff. It was just monitoring wires and communication wires in general, right? And I can't figure out where any of this stuff is coming from. And this is before the TSB came out for this. There's actually a TSB out for this particular issue on these Focuses. And I'm sitting there and I'm going through the harness and I'm going through all this stuff, and I can't figure out what the heck is going on with this car. Why there's so many codes set. There's like a dozen different codes set in this computer, and it's just random. You can clear everything, they go away, come back the first key cycle, some of them the second key cycle. They just come back. And I said, something's up here, man. Why do all these codes keep setting? All these things can't be wrong with this. This is right before the TSB came out. Whines about doing plug number 1 on the Vulcan. I don't have a problem with the Vulcan. The um, I'd love to be down there, man. I really would. Um, so all these issues keep popping up with the computer, right? And I'm going through this harness, and I start unplugging stuff. I start unplugging stuff with the PCM, the crank sensor. I go across the top of the motor, and I start taking a trim tool, and I'm unplugging everything on top of the motor. And as I get back to the throttle body, I reach my hand down underneath by the throttle body, and I was like, why does it feel like this rubbed through right there? So I pull the air cleaner and stuff out of there, pull everything out of the way completely, and I pull that harness up out and lay it on top of the engine, and I flip part of it over. And sure enough, every single one of those, 10 hours later, 10 hours into this thing when the TSB wasn't even out yet, I flipped this thing over, and every freaking one of the wires I rubbed through underneath that harness on that Focus, that 2-liter Focus. It's a common problem with those. A lot of people will chase themselves and chase themselves and chase themselves. A lot of independent shops get a hold of me and stuff. Hey, I heard there's some kind of TSB out on this or something like that. I'm like, yeah, there is. Reach down there by the harness, by the throttle body, and actually unclip it from where it clips and flip it over, and you'll see rubbed through wires. Most of the time, every single time, it has something to do with wires right in that throttle body area that are rubbed through. It's a common problem with the 2-liter Focuses. It's I didn't know that at the time. There were no TSBs or anything at the time. And it took me hours and hours and hours and hours of fixing this thing, man. The harness just falling apart, the rub through areas and stuff by the throttle body, because they pull the harness too tight. What they have you do is start unclipping some of the push clips and actually free up the wire a little bit, or free up the harness a little bit, so it's not pulling down on it so hard. Okay. This is a stupid one that this was more my fault than anything, because it should be a recall, but it's not. It's actually just a TSB. The funny thing here is, before I get into the last vehicle, in order for something to be a recall, there has to be enough people that complain about it. The Highway Safety, National Highway Transportation Safety, blah 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 board, or whatever it is, they got to find out about this stuff. Enough people have to complain about a problem and come forward, like the DPS6. Yeah, that's not the Pete. You're not getting the point here. What I'm trying to say is, enough people have to complain about it. Doesn't matter if it's a safety issue at all. People have to actually get enough gall to go say something about it. When I called up the National Highway Safety Board, or whatever it is, about my what is it, 2001 or 2002 Eddie Bauer Edition Expedition, and I said, hey, it's literally blowing plugs right out of them. Hey, Archie, come here. Get out of there. When I told them what was going on with it blowing plugs literally out of the cylinder head, I said, how is this legit? And they were like, you know what? It should have been legit. The problem is, there's so many of these vehicles on the road blowing these spark plugs literally out of the cylinder head. Can cause fires, can cause all kinds of stuff, can cause vehicles to just stall in the middle of the road, whatever it may be. There's a whole list of stuff they gave me, but they said if enough people don't complain about it, and enough people don't put pressure on the manufacturers to fix these problems, and they just sit around on the internet and on the phone, their friends and stuff like that, and they gripe about things, and they don't take action about it, nothing gets done. There has to be a certain amount of people that take the initiative, that say, I don't like this, I don't feel safe with this, and actually go do something about it. This is how these things become recalls. Unless they're blatant safety issues right in front of your face, like, if this happens, you're going to get hurt. Now, a harness rubbing through is not literally a safety issue. It's more a defective engineering, building quality type thing than anything. It could be a safety issue, but it's not a real safety issue. What do I do about it? I can't do anything about it. All I can do is write up the story and say, this vehicle came in for this problem, and this is how I fixed it based on the technical service bulletin. But I can't do anything about it. People need to actually talk about it and complain about it and say, I'm not okay with this. I don't feel safe with this. I don't feel okay with this. I don't feel safe with that. People wait too long. You need to call up the National Highway Safety Board. If you have an issue with something like that, you need to call up the you need to call up Ford and express your concern. You need to call up the Highway Safety Board and express your concern. That's the only way you can get anything done. You have to call these people. You have to tell them what's going on. You have to make them aware of stuff that's going on. That's the only way they can build a case about making something a recall. You think a manufacturer is going to go out and willingly admit to thousands of dollars worth of damage until people come forward? No, they're not. They're going to hope that vehicle gets out of warranty, so it's somebody else's problem. I don't think dealers would speak up on it because they would rather it be cash paid than warranty. Pete, some of the stuff some of the stuff you say, Pete, sometimes I don't know, man. I think you're a good dude, but I don't know that you actually know how to communicate with me properly. I eat a lot of stuff. I eat a lot of stuff that people say, and I don't tell them how ridiculous it sounds sometimes. Some of the stuff you say sometimes, man, it's a little ridiculous. It is. I don't think dealers would speak up on it because they would rather it be cash than warranty. Come on, man. Seriously? It has nothing to do with dealers not speaking up about it. We speak up about it. We literally write freaking RO upon RO upon RO upon RO, letting the manufacturer know this is what we found. Every single vehicle has to leave the dealership with a paper trail of what we freaking found. Why does it always have to be put back on the dealer and the damn technician? This makes no fucking sense when people say that. Every vehicle that leaves the goddamn shop has to have a repair order wrote up on it with a paper trail behind it explaining exactly what has been done. So why does it fall back on us that it's, oh, we're trying to set some customer up or some person up in the future because we want money? Come on, man. Come on. Yeah, but what you said though, man, it's not about, it's what you said is the general consensus. It has to be the dealer and the technician that's trying to pad their pockets or something in the future. Stop saying that stuff. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with whether the manufacturer wants to take initiative after we write up our stories saying what we found. We can build a case against them by contacting the manufacturer and hotline and saying, this is the problem we found. This is the time it took to find it. This is becoming a common problem that we're seeing. Please do something about it. When you say the dealer or the the technician or the dealer, come on. Let's move on from this, man. People are going to get me to the point where I lose my mind over or not being able to communicate properly. Some of the stuff you guys say sometimes, man, I don't think you think about it before you say it. No, they don't encourage them to call the NHTSA. They encourage them to call the manufacturer. All of the stuff, hey, all of the stuff that we do gets reported. Like you go get an oil change done at Jiffy Lube, it's reported. You go get an oil change done somewhere, there's a trail, there's a track record of what gets reported, and it's all an online database. Anybody can come and find out what's been done at the dealer, service history record or whatever, the Highway Safety Board, the manufacturer, anybody can. Anything that gets done to your vehicle at a professional establishment that logs stuff that has been repairs, you can go on. There's multiple websites and find out what has been done to that vehicle. There's a record that follows everybody. No, all dealerships aren't honest, man. I can tell you that right now. But I can speak from my dealership and the dealerships I've worked at. But we're not going to sit here and point the finger at all the dealerships out there and say, okay, all you guys are crooked because you work at a dealership. Enough with that. That's that SJW side coming out of people. That little warrior that wants to jump up and down and actually feel like they are somebody by pointing the finger at somebody. Quit. You can say yes or you can say no to somebody. Start using common sense and reach down there and grab your set, and actually be a man. When you go somewhere, if you don't like something that's being done, you sound the hell off and you tell them, I don't like this, I don't think this is fair, this is not okay. You do something about it. Too many people get on the internet and they complain about people doing stuff, but they don't ever do anything about it. When you come to my dealership, the service you're going to receive is exactly what you pay for. There's technicians that do nothing but care about people there, right? Well, I mean, if they got fired, they got fired. I mean, what are you going to do? I get what you're saying, Pete. I understand you don't, but I mean, this is the type of talk. This is the type of talk that incites other people to feel like the same way or resonate exactly what you are just because people say that. Do you ever think that the service writers are part of the issue, giving the dealers a badge? Sometimes, yeah, sure, exactly. But this is what you do, guys. Enough with the small talk. Start speaking up. Start start being a man or a woman about what your business is. Stop being quiet about it and holding it in and then complaining about it after you walk out the door. Own your shit, man. Seriously, I apologize for the mouth, but own your business. Go into an establishment, be a man or be a woman, and own it. Quit making excuses while you let other people do bad stuff to you when you have the opportunity to say yes or no. That's it. A lot of people like to put the blame on everybody else, but if just thinking outside of this, a dog eat dog world, right? And that's not necessarily the right thing to do all the time, is by taking advantage of somebody. But if you ain't eating somebody, you're being eaten by somebody. And that's how life works. Eat somebody and don't be eaten by somebody. That's it. Go out there and start standing up for yourself. If you don't like what's being done to you, say something about it. I'm tired of, oh, the dealer did this and the dealer did that. Did you sign the line? Did you actually sit there and sign everything? Because as far as I know, if somebody doesn't like something being done, they can always say, stop, no, don't go, please don't do that. I'm calling the cops if you do that. I want my vehicle back, don't work on it. There's a lot of things that can get you out of that. But people, oh no, go ahead and do it. Go ahead. I'll give you a situation right now. And then the lady turned around and complained about it. Y'all got me fired up now, man. Y'all got me fired the hell up now. I tell you a situation right now. Maybe it'll make you wake up a little bit about what you think is going on and you don't know what the hell is going on. Lady came into the dealership. She played the whole, I'm a poor mom and I got kids and everything else and all this other stuff. She laid it on us, right? Thick. I went ahead and did all the brakes and stuff on her vehicle because she okayed everything, said everything was perfectly fine. Go ahead and do all the repairs and stuff, right? I knock it out, got a beautiful job, paint the calipers, the edge of the rotors and stuff like that. Did everything perfect for this lady, right? Did everything. She had the nerve to turn around and cry and cry me a river and everything else. When it was all said and done, she's getting charged 3 hours worth of labor for pads and rotors and everything else when I could have charged her more than that because the suckers were completely locked up. I even fixed one of the brake lines with a new crush washer and stuff that was leaking. She had the nerve to dog us and talk crap about us and talk about, oh, the dealer did this and the dealer did that. Are you kidding me? After all the work I just did for you, you have the gall and the nerve to still complain and point the finger at the dealer. I didn't say that was okay. You didn't pay any extra. I fixed all the extra stuff that was wrong with your vehicle that you were concerned about. That was a safety hazard, and I told you I was going to do it, and you okayed it, and then you still complained about it. You know how many people there are on the internet that actually go out here and say, oh, the dealer this and the dealer that? When they're their own worst enemy, they're the ones that created the problem to begin with, but because it's their money and they have a soapbox that they can voice themselves on, they jump on here. 90% of the people on here bitching and complaining about what the dealer has done, it's not the dealer that did it, they did it. It was poor communication on their part, or they said something was okay and then didn't like what was done because it didn't fix the problem, and then we need more time, we need to look into this. Come on. I've heard it. I've heard enough of people complaining about stuff, and then I look into the situation and there's question marks all over the place, but it's the dealer's fault, it's the mechanic's fault. Now granted, some situations are true, really is, bad stuff has been done to people and it's very unfortunate, and I'd like for those people to be held accountable. But what you're not seeing is, you're not seeing the customer dealing with people at the front desk knowing that they have more leverage than we do, and using us and abusing us, and then getting away with it, and then being able to complain and leave bad reviews and everything else, because you know what's going to happen? The GM of that dealership or the service manager of that dealership doesn't want the bad rep. Just like that Mustang guy I just told you guys about, they're going to say, okay, you know what, just go ahead and do it, take care of it, pay for it, $500, $600, $700, $1,000 later. Yeah, bad things do happen, but 7 out of those 10 bad things that you see on the internet happen, that customer definitely had more to do with than what they're admitting to. Guaranteed. But people won't say that. People are too scared to talk about that on the internet because they're afraid somebody is going to get a hold of the dealership and complain about them. Well, guess what, baby? I got my own shop to fall back on. I got my own money coming in. I have YouTube money and stuff like that. Call my dealership up and complain about me. See if the fuck I care.
I'm not an SJW out here worried about somebody hurting my feelings. I'm telling you like it is. When you come to this channel, I'm going to tell you like it is. 79 to 90% of the time, the customers have more to deal with the situation than what they're willing to admit. And they complain about it on here and they make it seem like everybody else is bad. What was it? Here's a good example. What is that? Who's that car show on? He actually talked about the story. He talked about how bad they got done. Counting Cars or whatever that guy is that takes those old time cars and stuff like that and they refurbish them and do resto mods and everything else. Did you guys see the episode where the guy wanted to drop off the El Camino? He wants this El Camino is gorgeous, and he wanted a what do you call that? A vinyl top put on. So they're doing all this work and stuff to this guy's car. They're doing all this stuff to the guy. Not Rabbit. I'm still on the same category. Chill, okay? They're doing all this stuff to the guy's car, and this guy's like a multi-millionaire or something like that. He's got all this money. He tells him right over the phone, money's not an issue. Just go ahead and do. The scenario is, I wish I could stay on track without somebody trying to talk me out of it. The scenario is what I'm after. For God's sake, anyway. They start to put a vinyl top on the car, right? And the customer calls up in the middle of it and says, you know what, I seen what that top looks like. I don't like that. Take it off. And they're like, do you know what it takes to take a vinyl top off? We're going to ruin the vinyl. We're going to ruin the car. We're going to ruin the paint. All the work has to be put back into it. We got to throw all the trim and stuff away. All that stuff's got to go in order for it to be put back to the way you had it. I mean, it's a lot of work, and that's a lot of money lost. Are you sure you want us to go through with it? The guy says, I don't care. It's my money. Do it. Okay, you're going to pay for all the material, but then all the time they lost and all the money they lost on that job and then they finally realized at the end of it, sometimes with customers, you have to cut your losses. I don't know how many jobs I've done where I've gotten into the vehicle, fixed something else, and then, oh, it's something else, it's something else, it's something else. Oh, you need to do this while you're there, or can you do that? Or, you know what, I don't like that, redo this, do it this way or whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what, take the damn thing. Come get the car and take it because I'm done with it. I'd rather lose the money than have to deal with you changing stuff up on me every time I turn around. I was putting a set of headers on this guy's Mustang. I put the headers and stuff on there, and then he wants this X pipe, and then he wants that H pipe, and then he wants these mufflers, then he wants that mufflers, and I'm not going to keep doing this, man. I'm not going to keep changing this stuff out over and over and over again, up on the lift, down on the lift, up on the lift. I'm not getting paid for all this time. I quoted you out to do a job, and every time that I have to make a change, it's going to be additional time added. Well, he didn't like that. He didn't like the fact that every time I would have to make a change, that I was going to charge him more time. So I said, you know what? Come pick up the damn car. I'm done with it. You got the headers on, everything down to the H pipe. I have it was like Flowmaster 40 series on it, and then he wanted Roush axle back, and then he wanted some kind of what the hell is it? It's a muffler. It's got square sides and a square bottom. It's more of like a performance drag style or something like that, where they're more wide open. I forget what it's called. And I got tired of it. After going back and forth, come get the damn thing. Come get the car, take it to somebody else, because I'm not going to keep doing this. I know you're not going to pay me all the money I have into this. Every time I got to bring it back in the shop, every time I have to rack it, every time I have to take clamps off, pull the exhaust down, fit stuff in, I'm done. Come get the car. I'm finished with it. And I just quit working on it. I'm not going to do it. You know, it's one of those things where you know you're not going to get the amount of time that you have in this thing. And then I redid a package tray on a 1964 Thunderbird. It was that rose color. So I got the material and stuff for it. The guy says, do you know how to work on, older cars? I said, of course I do. I spent a couple years living at a guy's house working on nothing but 1958 to 1966 Thunderbirds. He said, I have a package tray that I want recovered. Can you do it? I said, I can, but I need you to leave it at my house and don't rush me. Because when I seen the package tray, it had some pitting in the metal that had to be fixed. So I fixed all the pitting and stuff in the metal. I took it to a buddy of mine and I let him braze everything shut because it was real thin. And then I went ahead and did all the metal treatment stuff to it, painted it a nice gloss black, and then I went ahead and applied my material glue to everything. And then I got a bunch of clamps, laid it on a couple sawhorses, and I wrapped this rose color material all over it. Then he sees it and he doesn't like it. Oh, I thought you ordered rose. It is rose right out of the freaking magazine you gave me to order it out of. You said that was what you wanted. That's what I did. Well, I don't like it. It doesn't really match the interior of the car. Well, that's what you wanted me to order, and that's what I ordered. The reason it doesn't match the interior of the car is because the interior of the car is older. It's not as plush and deep of a color as the rose color I put on it because it's old. It'll fade, and eventually it will look the same. And the guy says, I don't like it. I don't know if there's anything else you can do to find maybe another off color to match the interior of the car, but it's going to really look different whenever I go to car meets and stuff like that. Come get the car. I'm done. Come get the car. I can already tell you're the type of person that's going to do nothing but complain about everything. Come get the car. You're fired. You're done. I'm not working on it no more. Pay me the money that I already have into it. I'm done working on this thing. Sometimes you just got to do it. I'm not going to mess around with people like that. But at the dealership, I don't have a choice. I have to do what I'm told. I mean, I do have a choice. I have actually had customers come in and be jerks, and they know they can be jerks, and then I see the ticket and I'm like, oh, isn't this that guy that was here 2 weeks ago that was a complete asshole to everybody, that was just swearing at people and making a nuisance in the lobby? Yeah, I'm not working on that. Give it to somebody else. I ain't working on that. I'm not going to take a chance on that guy. Somebody else can work on it. It's not me. And I've told them. I've told the dealership straight to their face. No, I'm not working on it. Somebody else can. I'm not going to get in the middle of that guy's headache. Just not going to happen. Okay, so the last vehicle, my number 6 vehicle, 2019 3.5 liter EcoBoost Expedition oxygen sensor code. I had an oxygen sensor code pop up on this thing, and the guy came into the dealership and he wants me to look at it real quick. I says, okay, I'll look at it. So I'm looking at the vehicle, see the oxygen sensor code. The pinpoint test leads me back to replacing the oxygen sensor. So I replaced the oxygen sensor just like the pinpoint test said. Comes back 5,000 miles later, oxygen sensor code again. Can't go back by this pinpoint test, right? Because it's going to lead me right back to the same code, replacing it again. So I'm looking in the computer system, and then I go into the warranty history. I said, where did this vehicle come from? Because I don't see anything with our dealership on this ticket where they bought this vehicle from. So I start digging and doing some investigating. It came from Libertyville Ford. So I'm like, yeah. So somebody at Libertyville Ford replaced the sensor already 7,000 miles before I replaced it the first time. And then I replaced it by following the pinpoint test. That's where it led me. Again, like I said before, the pinpoint test can lead you in circles in the wrong direction completely or not even fix the problem. So I said I obviously can't do that again because the sensor, what's the chance we have 2 bad sensors in 12,000 miles, 15,000 miles? It's not going to be 2 bad sensors. Something else is wrong with the vehicle. So I'm looking through the wiring schematic and I see there's a splice pack in that harness up by the back of the engine. But in order to get to that splice pack, I would have to split open the harness and stuff to see if it was malfunctioning. Well, in order for me to pull the harness and split everything open, there's probably going to be a couple hours labor, right? The customer's not going to pay that. The vehicle's still under warranty. So I'm like, what do I do here? Do I charge the warranty department a couple hours for labor and then splitting it open and then charge them another hour to put everything back in and a new harness? Or do I just go ahead and order the harness? Just order the whole damn harness from the PCM all the way down to the sensor. Then you eliminate everything. Then there's no issue having to try to diagnose anything unless it is the PCM itself. Okay, I order the harness. So I get the harness, plug it all in, and that's not the problem. Even though I replaced the entire harness going back to the oxygen sensor straight to the PCM, it did not fix the issue. Now you would think to yourself, wait a second, you replace the oxygen sensor. Another guy also followed the pinpoint test and replaced the oxygen sensor. That didn't fix the problem. You did it and it didn't fix the problem. And then you put a wiring harness in it and it didn't fix the problem. What the hell could be the problem? You just replaced the entire thing, so how could it still be broken, right? Yeah, I was thinking the same thing as well. Well, there's another part of the harness that actually uses part of the feed from that harness I replaced, like it ties into it in one of the separate connectors, and it plugs to the other side of the PCM. The guy came in a third time, oxygen sensor code. Says, okay, something else has got to be going on here. I'm following the wiring diagram, and then I seen something that I didn't see before. I said, there's another connector that has a circuit that ties into this harness. I replaced it, but I didn't think to check that harness because I didn't think it would share the same power source. Oh, but it does. And then I follow that wire all the way back to another connector at the PCM and unplug it, and I find the pin. And I take and I do a pin fitment test, just kind of light drag, see if I can feel anything. I test the the adjacent pins that are the same size, nice and snug, got a nice drag to it. I go to the oxygen sensor one. It's like throwing a hot dog down a hallway. I was like, holy shit, that was the problem to begin with. So I pull the pin out, I tighten the pin back up, I shove it back inside the connector, I clip everything back in, shut the key off, turn the key back on, code's gone. It was a pin fitment issue. Most of the issues that I found over the last few years aren't bad sensors. A lot of them are just plain pin fitment issues because of the poor connectors that Ford used. A lot of them, they use very bad plating on their pins. There was even an issue with the Mustangs and the F-150s. There was an issue with the Mustangs and the F-150s where the seat modules for the heated and cooled seats, the TED system, under the passenger seat, they would say if you unplug your actual module and under the passenger seat and you look at the pins, you can see they're made of a very poor, like nickel plated material, and it's bad for conductiveness inside those pins, and they end up corroding and wearing out, getting hot. So what you need to do is you need to order a new connector, and it's got like a silver coating on it instead of the nickel stuff, and it doesn't have the same problem. So that's in like the F-150s. No, the Mustangs. It's either the F-150 or the Mustang. It has the updated connector. But the one, whichever one it is, I think it's the F-150 that doesn't have the update. The Mustang has the updated connector, but the F-150 doesn't. When you check the F-150, they still have the same nickel-plated blower motor connector under the passenger seat, and they never chose to update it, knowing darn well that it's a bad connector, knowing darn well that they should go to a silver-plated pin so it makes better connection and it doesn't fade as much. All of a sudden, we have connection issues. You would think Ford would get it together and say, you know what, if we're doing that on this vehicle and it's failing and we're having issues, maybe we should start making all these connectors that we used these, the nickel plating on. Maybe we should do that with all of them, because obviously it's not a good idea. It needs to have a silver plating for really, really, really good connection. Nope. They don't care. They didn't do it. Purge valve on the... I didn't really know there was a problem with the purge valve in the F-150 5-liter. I mean, I don't think I've really ever done that many. If I've ever even done a purge valve on an F-150. I've had them off for, like, manifold repairs, but I've never had to replace one. I don't think, anyway. Maybe a couple. I mean, if I don't remember, that means it must not have been a problem. On my end, anyway. But here's something else about that Expedition. The guy comes back, and he says, I'm not done. I got more problems. I'm like, what's the problem? Well, my contour seats, the massaging airbag seats, I don't like how they're working. Sometimes they don't work at all. I said, okay. It's just a couple of air bladders and a module in the back of it. Probably no problem to get them working again. Well, he says, it's in both seats. I said, both seats aren't working? Or he says, no, the TSB says if you fix one, you got to fix both seats, even if one of them's bad. Oh, you already know there's a TSB. Oh, yeah. So you're on the internet searching around for TSB so you can come to the dealer and have a problem so you can feel justified in getting more work done to your vehicle. These are the customers that I absolutely despise. Because somebody on the internet says there's a TSB, that means it must apply to them, or they're going to do something to sabotage whatever's going on with that vehicle to get that TSB taken care of on their vehicle. I'm like, well, how the fuck does that work? It's working fine right now. Oh yeah, but so and so said that it may happen in the future. But that doesn't mean that I automatically go do this to your vehicle because you heard a story from somebody. That means I have to just repair something that's not repairable. Well, yeah, that's how it works. No, that's not how it works. It says if there is a problem, this must be done. It doesn't say if you hear from somebody else, this must be done. It doesn't say that if mommy says this is how it works, this must be done, because this ain't Burger King. You don't get it your way. It's if there's a problem, I fix it. That's how it works. Not you fabricate some story that there's a problem because somebody said there's a TSB on your vehicle that took care of their problem and now you must automatically get the same treatment. It doesn't work that way. There's no problem. So, you know, I'm like, what the hell? I'll look into it. There's some kind of treatment that I have to give this guy here, and it ain't the kind of treatment that they want me to give him. So I'll look into it, and I'm not going to get paid for it. So pull the vehicle in the shop, look at everything. Y'all are going to shit yourself whenever I tell you this. I look into everything, no problem at all. Pull it outside, shut it off, no problem at all. Next morning, come in, go start the vehicle, no problem at all. The customer comes to get his vehicle. No problem found. He goes out to the vehicle. 10 minutes later, comes storming back into the shop. You didn't fix my truck. What do you mean it didn't fix your truck? It's been fine for the last 2 days it's been here. It's been working non-stop. Every time I get in the day, I drove it to lunch. It's been working the whole entire time. Nope, you didn't fix my truck. So I go out to his truck. Go out to the Expedition. He says, watch this. I get up in the seats. I put the massaging contour seats on. The seats don't work. From the time he came to pick up his vehicle until 10 minutes later, now the seats don't work. Explain that one. It worked the entire time it was there. And I'm on this tangent about it doesn't apply to your vehicle. This doesn't work. That doesn't work. Whatever. Now it doesn't work. Now I'm pulling the vehicle back in the shop, putting him in a loaner because it doesn't work. Well, I did exactly what the TSB said. I looked like a big asshole in that one because even though the vehicle was working the whole entire time, within that 10 minutes of him picking up the vehicle, all of a sudden the seats don't work. Well, I had to fix it because I had no proof of anything. So I go up, pull the vehicle in. Sure enough, find the TSB that he's talking about. Order the 2 new connectors that go in the seat module back. There's a module in the back of the seat. Order the connectors. Connectors come in. Ford has this whole procedure where you got to cut so far back into the harness. You got to wire in the connectors. You got to put all the seats back together and stuff like that. As I'm putting all the seats back together, it gets better. It gets juicy. As I'm putting all the seats and stuff back together, I noticed there's a connector under the seat that's for the, what was it, the video system, right? Connector's broken. The job's not going to stop there. So I get all these connectors and stuff wired in. Seats and stuff are working now. But now I got video and monitors down. Okay, I see how this is going. It's just my luck, right? It's just my damn luck that I get stuck with this and it snowballs and snowballs and snowballs and snowballs. I get the seats fixed. Get the connectors put in. Now I am reading the chat, but I don't respond to every single message that pops up on the chat. Because if I respond to every message that pops up on the chat, I can't get anywhere. This is not just respond to every single message that pops up. Anyway, so this was an interesting one. Multiple connectors broken, the TSB having to get done, making the guy happy, everything else. Then I find out 6 months later, the guy gets rid of the vehicle. He trades it in on a Toyota. Yep. You know who I immediately thought of? Good old Kilmer. He got rid of a Ford for a Toyota. Oh my God. Just my luck, right? We look great at this point. What's up with Toyota? There's nothing wrong with Toyota. Toyota's another vehicle. It's got 4 wheels on it. You've got a steering wheel and a seat. You put your seatbelt on. You stick the key in the ignition or push the button. Hopefully you hold the brake when you're shifting to reverse or drive, and then you push your foot on the gas and you go. Just like every other vehicle. Nothing wrong with it. Foot on gas, car move forward. Or rev up if you don't have it in gear. I don't manufacturer bash. I don't believe in saying, you know, manufacturers are bad. I don't believe in bashing Ford or Dodge or Toyota, or I don't do any of that stuff. I love technology. I love all manufacturers. I love the, you know, new exciting things that come out. Rev down your engines. This is the Not Scotty Kilmer show. So screw yourself. Yeah. Oh, here's something for you. Here's something for you. We're coming back, right? We're coming back from our event last night. We went to that Blanco restaurant that I told you about. And I'm sitting behind 2 brand new, like 2020 model Silverados. Like 2020, 2021, whatever they were. The ugly looking ones that got that funky rear, the rear brake light that goes like, it drops down and then it cuts in and it goes down and it comes over and it goes down. It doesn't even look like an American vehicle anymore. It looks like some kind of like, it looks like a, I don't know, a Mars bar and a Skittle fucked and had a baby or something like that. It looks all smashed in and it looks all weird, and then it looks like somebody put it in the oven and it started to droop down or something like that. The whole front end of that truck looks like complete garbage, right? It just looks like, I don't even know. The front of that truck looks terrible. I would never drive that truck just based on looks alone. The fact that it has, the fact that it's a Chevy, I'm okay with. I like the technology and stuff like that. But the Chevy front bumper and grille and taillights are atrocious. It looks like somebody took that Chevy and ran it through a metal roller and then flipped it over on its side and then ran it through a metal roller, and then like the Goodyear tire man or somebody came and blew its ass up from the back, and then it just popped out all deformed and stuff or whatever. That, I mean, I'll talk trash about that. But the fact that it's not a good looking vehicle to me at all. But we're sitting behind these 2 Chevys. One's called correct me on this because I'm not into these what are they, packages or something. It's called a Spider. Was it a Spider or something, Red Spider or Spider Web package, or Black Spider or Black Widow package or something like that? Is it Black Widow? Is that what it is? But we're behind a custom, just a factory custom. And then on the left side is a Black Widow package. And I like the aggressiveness of how the truck looks, but the taillights look like garbage, the front end looks like garbage, but it does look like a decent aggressive truck, right? So as the truck on the right goes to take off, I see a little bit of like blackish smoke coming out of the tailpipe, and I'm thinking to myself, it looks like a brand new truck. Why would it be smoking every time it hits the gas? And as he goes to take off, a little bit of smoke came out. And then a little bit of smoke came out. And then a little bit of smoke came out. And then here comes this Black Widow Silverado. And I'm thinking to myself, for sure, this truck's not going to do the same thing. And after 3 or 4 stoplights, he gets on it real hard one time. Like, not super, super hard. All this gray and black smoke comes out of it every single time they hit the gas. And I was like, I'd never seen that from an F-150. They don't do that unless they really, really romp on it. And these guys were just doing it in light traffic. A plume of smoke, a plume of smoke, a plume of smoke. Just like, do these things really do this brand new? I thought they were trying to get all this emission stuff under control. My Lincoln doesn't do that. And it's tuned and messed with and everything else, and free-flowing exhausts and all this stuff. And I beat the living hell out of it. Never does anything like that. Never. And I'm looking at these brand new Chevys on the road in front of us. And I'm like, wow, these things are, I won't say it. But anyway, maybe that's the reason why the Chevy dealer next door at 5 and 10,000 miles is getting these new LS engines in there when cams are going out and lifters are taking cam lobes out and stuff. I don't know. 2006 Lincoln. 2006 Lincoln Town Car. You guys want to go out there and see it real quick? I don't know if we'll keep internet reception all the way out there, but we can go out there and see it real quick. It's my baby. I'm working on a Vortec S trim for it. That's going to be coming up here soon. Let's see what we got here. That's the old girl right there. Remember all them people that told me, oh, the rotors are going to turn red, the brakes are going to turn red? They ain't turned red, they're like brand new still. Look how clean the calipers and stuff still are. Still like brand new. Oh, dirt on them, no nothing. Oh, I'm back. Let me get back close to the house before we lose internet. There is no brake dust. I haven't washed that car one time since I did that. I don't believe I did. The first day I put those on, there's the I washed it so I could show it to you guys, so it was like aesthetically appealing and stuff like that. And then I was like, ah, screw those guys. Now I ain't gotta wash it no more. I didn't really say that, but that's it. You know, it's been what, a month now? I haven't washed that thing. Oh yeah, I was out in the country today, so I had to lay a little rubber down. I was out in my old stomping grounds, way out in the country. So I stopped on one of my favorite roads and I lit those bad boys up. I let her eat. I let her eat. I was trying out the new can shift. So I locked it in second gear and well, I started in first and I got them rolling, and once I got them rolling, I shifted into second so it would bump up speed, but I just left it there. I left them locked in there. Second at like 70 mile an hour. Smoke all over the place. I had to show the old country road some good old times like back in the day. What kind of brakes do I have on the Link? Are they? No, they're ceramic. They're like what are they? The ones that I put on there? Duralast Performance something, some kind of racing ceramic or something like that. Well, you better put some of that purple stuff that Scotty Kilmer put in his customer's car. Y'all wouldn't believe what this stuff what did he say? You wouldn't believe what this chemical did to my customer's car or something like that. And then you watch the video and it's the miracle cure. It fixed all the running and driving problems. The royal purple additive that he tried to flip around backwards to make it seem like he wasn't getting sponsored by them. But then when it's clear as day, it's royal purple. It's the only can that looks like that. And then you look at the previous videos, which I kind of did some more homework on old Scotty Kilmer today, not to get off on that tangent. But I spent about an hour this afternoon looking at previous videos from like 9 years ago and all the stupid stuff that guy used to say. And I thought just a few years ago he made pretty decent recommendations, but I'm looking up to 9 years ago. And he's talking about how important it is to use jack stands and don't ever get under a car without jack stands and stuff like that, and safety first. But then you look at 4 or 5 years ago, he's putting out a video talking about, oh, it doesn't matter if jack stands are not under the vehicle. You can just jack it up real quick. Don't worry about it. The tires aren't going to crush you. Yeah, I did a lot of research earlier today, and I watched a lot of videos from previous creators that never really made it big to get the message out there. There's a lot of people out there that have called old Scotty out on his BS from years and years prior. A lot of people that never got any traction. They never got any traction on their videos for other people to actually see what was going on, which is the sad part. When you actually look at the amount of people that has been talking about how poor his recommendations are and how unsafe that guy is to follow, you can go years and years and years and years back and they just never got any views, so people never actually got to hear what they said because their audience at the time was not very big. Well, now I have the voice to say something about it where something can actually get some traction and people can actually hear what I have to say about how poor his recommendations are and how somebody's actually going to get hurt one of these days. So, you know, if I don't seize the opportunity to at least check people when they bring his garbage here, I don't know who's going to. I mean, people need to know this guy's a lunatic. Well, there ain't nothing else to really watch. Everything's been talked about already. I mean, well, you bring your '03 Cobra on, buddy. 'Cause I'm gonna spank that booty when I get that S-trim on there. You won't have a chance. Sucker! And I'm gonna be saying, suck on these nuts. Leave you in the dust. Sorry. I'm just playing with you, man. Gotta have fun somehow, right? Yeah, today when I went to go hang out with some of my friends this morning, we all went out to breakfast. Um, one of the guys pulled up, and I hear this. I said, "What the hell? What do you got under the hood of that Mustang?" And he's like, "You ain't never seen my Mustang?" And I said, "No, I never seen your Mustang. What is that?" And he said, "It's like '07 or something, a 4.0 liter or whatever it is, '06. I don't know, one of them years." And he's got black racing stripes down it. He's got adjustable, and I'm not talking about just regular adjustable coilovers. He's even got the expensive kit. He said it was like $1,700 for all four, and it's got like what the hell is it called? The dampening and the rebound adjustable piston rate and stuff on the top. And he said, no, it's everything that's in this car is like the most expensive stuff I could find at the time. And he pops the hood, and it's a 4-liter Mustang with a freaking S-trim supercharger on it. And he was like, yeah, this thing's like right at 420 horse or something like that. And I was like, what the hell? On a V6 Mustang? And he said, oh yeah, you put a lighter motor, just a basic $5,000-$6,000 kit. And he said, this thing flies, man. He said, I do stuff to these V8s that they never even have a chance. It's lighter, the back seats are out of it. It's the adjustables in and out of the turns and stuff like that. He said the thing is really, really fast, really quick. I was like, yes. New electric Mustang? I mean, they've already got TSBs out on it. And bolts literally falling out of the front end of the subframe, but I guess nothing bad to say, right? No, I didn't put a cam in mine, so mine... No, mine has 93 octane tune. I have the transmission bumped up to 15% line pressure from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. All the motor's been resealed. Everything's all been regasketed and gone through. No leaks, no nothing like that. The rear end's been done already. All the suspension has been gone through. What else? It's got a 373 ring and pinion right now, Ford Racing ring and pinion, but I just got the Yukon LSD. The lift is actually, the guys told me last night they were actually drilling the holes in the ground to actually anchor the lift. So this weekend or Monday, Tuesday, it's supposed to be done. They got a little bit of a late start, so I'll be putting the Yukon 31 spline 8.8 LSD in it. What else? Mosier 31 spline axles. Trying to think. There's other stuff that's been done. I forget. Oh, it's got a, I don't know if you'd even call it like a real mod. It's got a P71 lower airbox with a town car upper airbox hybrid setup. I had to modify the town car box to put the P71 in it. Even though it is faster and it's a lot quicker than what it was before, it is, it sucks on fuel now. So much more airflow and stuff now, and it's not tuned to optimize everything like it could be. The fuel mileage went down like 3 or 4 miles to the gallon now because of everything that I did. Yeah, it's quicker, the throttle response is better, it sucker hauls ass now, but it just doesn't have the same fuel mileage. No, it's not a 32 valve. It's got a ported plenum and stuff, the ADTR ported plenum. Throttle body spacer, whatever, yada yada yada. You don't even need to do that 3500 stall on that. You don't have to do that at all. The way it's set up right now with those 2016 Mustang GT rims and the Tiger Paws, when you mat it and when you like do it like a, what would you call it, when you just sit there and do a brake torque and then let it ride out, you'll get 30 or 40 feet out of that thing before it'll actually hook up. Today when I did it, that's how it was out in the country, and what, it was like 90 degrees earlier today. I roasted them until they were really, 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 really hot. I just laid it down. And I sat there for probably a good 8 to 10 seconds in the same spot and got those tires super, super hot, and then rode it out. And the strips down the road were about 40 feet before I let out of it, before it actually got a lot of traction. Where that car is really nice is by me bumping up the line pressure, and then it has the can shift, the manual paddle shifters hooked up to it now. Whenever like I said, I've been putting out video playing with that thing. It likes to be rev matched. When you're in a gear, if you're in, say like you're doing 58 mile an hour in second gear, and if you let out of the gas, and then you try to line up with somebody or do like a roll race at like 50, if you time it right and you get used to it, you can hammer that sucker again, and it'll give you almost 1,000 RPM like roll stall converter right away. And it just rolls right into it super hard, instead of that like town car, Marauder, Crown Vic, that they'll do a nice firm shift, but it eases into it. The way I do it, it's like a 600 to 1,000 RPM whole, like a stall hits, and it's like bam, and the car just jumps like almost a half a car length or a whole car length faster than what it normally would. And then the person that you're running at 40, 50 mile an hour, they have to play catch up at that point. My shop is warm, yeah. We have multiple heaters throughout the shop. I don't dislike working in the winter. I prefer to work in the winter. I don't think you want to do a 10-speed swap. I would not do a 10-speed swap. If I did anything, I would do a 6-speed swap on that car. 10 speeds, they seem to hunt gears too much. They don't know where you want it to be. And then when you finally do get it to a decent speed, or it finally does catch up, it seems like it's always trying to rebound. It's hunting for gears constantly with those 10R80s. I wouldn't go that route. Unless you have somebody tune it to where it does not do that anymore. But the factory type tuning for that PCM does not work. I would get a 6-speed that you trust, and that's what I would use. Yes, it's the 10R80 that they put in the 10-speed General Motors trucks. It's the same one. I think they just call it something different or whatever. At least that's what I've been told. The Chevy guys are like, we're having the same problems. It's always hunting for gears. Six-speed? What 6-speed do I recommend? I actually want to put, what is that, is the Tremec 600 or something like that? Isn't that the newer 6-speed that's in the Mach 1? I thought that's what they put in there. I'd like to have one of those Tremec 600s in the car and just go manual instead of automatic, and just a real fun car. I know an automatic's consistent, and when you're talking about time-wise and power-wise, it takes the user error out of it. But I'd really like to have a Tremix, like one of those T600s in there. Uh-oh, I'm getting beckoned right now, so I may have to go soon. I'd love to have it. Dude, thank you, I appreciate it, man. The only type of training master I am is putting on girls' clothes, and I don't do that. So if you want to consider that a training master, then I'll be a training master. Because I'm definitely not a transmission master. There's a lot of guys out. There's a ton of guys out there better than me. I actually thought about buying. I actually thought about buying an AOD, a 4R70W. They have one 20 minutes from work, and taking both of them and putting it in a new shop and actually building the trans stand for it, and just becoming more familiar with them. Actually taking a 4R70W for my car and just building it. Actually building it with like Kevlar bands and everything else, just ripping it completely apart, and just do a whole video series on becoming more familiar with the 4R70 for all of us that like want to become more familiar with it. Just go ahead and buy all the professional tools and stuff for it, and just teach everybody as I'm learning and getting more familiar with it. Just start tearing it down. Just actually do a full-blown, nothing but working on that transmission and how to take it apart and put it together. And I think it would be a phenomenal series for all of us to learn together. As I'm going through it and learning, you guys getting to see that through me vicariously, and then we all learn. I'm like, man, I could literally build a brand new transmission for my car, you know, a little bit beefier than what it is now, and get to learn in the process. I think it would be phenomenal for the Panther guys that are interested in doing their own work, especially if I can break it down and go slow and make it easier. Y'all don't want to see me dress as a girl, because I'll do it. Don't tempt me. I'll do it. Not that I want to, but just to prove you guys wrong, I'll do it. And you don't want to see this tranny. Yeah, I know. And he also made another. He also made another video. Was it today? Today or last night or something like that? What was he talking about? Something about Ford screwed over their customers or something. But then when you watch the video, he doesn't even spend any time talking about how Ford screwed over their customers. He goes right from one subject and doesn't. It's not even a Ford screwed over their customers issue, and then he rolls right into something else like squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. Like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? He can't stay on track worth a damn. He puts the video title out by Ford screws over their customers, but then when he talks about the video, it's not even anything to do with Ford screwing over their customers. He just wants people to click on the video. I think people are so used to it now, they love it. I think it's this new SJW crowd or whatever that flocks to his channel, and he's making fun of people like that all the time, and I think they absolutely love it. I don't know. I don't get him. I don't get his content. SJW. Oh, you want to drop the whole car off? Now we might be talking about something here. For 10,000, you'll sell me the whole car. Hmm. Hmm. You know, you shouldn't say that on here, because if somebody sees the trailer mechanic on here talking about selling a Marauder for $10,000, knowing darn well that even the ones with high mileage are selling for $14, $15, $20, $22,000 right now. There was just one here in awesome shape, and it had 110,000 miles. The guy sold the thing for 11.1. There was another one in Chicago that sold like 4 months ago, and it had 72,000 miles on it, and he got $16,000 out of the car. I don't know, man. $10,000 seems awfully cheap. You say something around here, you might have to relinquish that thing. You might have to come off of it, I should say. Colorado versus the Maverick. I don't know. I mean, the Maverick we don't have yet. A lot of people ask me questions about the Maverick, but I haven't even put my hands on one yet. I don't even know what to say about it. We haven't seen one at the dealership. I haven't seen one on the road. I have no idea. Pete, I bet you if I got that Mercury, I could probably fix any little defect, any little small thing, that make that thing mint, and turn around and sell that thing for probably close to $15,000, $16,000. No Adderall today? Hey, hey. No Adderall today. He's limping a little bit. He was out here fighting and playing around with her, and now he's limping on his leg. We're gonna have to take him to the vet first thing in the morning. He hurt himself pretty good. He'll lay down and act completely fine, but then he'll jump up and start limping again. And I checked his paws, I can't find anything. I checked his joints, I can't find anything. I rubbed him in his shoulder and stuff like that, I can't find anything. He really did hurt himself. Something swelled up pretty good. So we gotta get him to the vet tomorrow, because we think he may have possibly hurt one of his joints or whatever. He gets a little rough and doesn't know how to stop. So we already let the vet know we gotta get in to see him, because he banged himself up pretty good. He gets too out of control. He's 11 months old and he's already 83, 84 pounds or something like that. And this lab, when he jumps, he could stand in one spot and jump up, and his head's almost by the top of the door. Thank you, I appreciate it. Yeah, that Lincoln has come a long way, man. That sucker's no joke now. I had an older 3-valve Mustang pull up next to me on the highway a couple days ago, and I shifted down in the can shift. I pulled it down into second gear at about 54, 55 mile an hour. RPM jumped up really high, but I still kept it towards the middle to 3/4 part of the power band. And when I launched that damn thing, that car, I took off almost a full car length and a half from that guy. And when I popped it in third, I was already at like, I want to say close to like 88, 89 mile an hour. Popped it in third, and I rode it all the way out to like 109, and he finally passed me at 109 mile an hour. The car couldn't even keep up with me in the beginning until he started catching his upper limit, and that's where mine ran out. No, they're a set of they're like $225 Chinese knockoff, blacked out backs and stuff. But Nathan, the other guy on here, Nathan J, if you look up his YouTube channel, he's a Panther guy, but he's got a Toyota now. He's looking for another town car, and he actually gave me his OEM ones. He actually gave me a hell of a deal. Nathan looks out for me a lot, because Nathan's a really good friend of mine, and I met him through YouTube, but we didn't know we lived so close to each other. So me and Nathan, we hang out sometimes, and then Vitaly Kaufman, he lives here locally as well. He's got a real nice channel as well on town cars and just reviewing cars and stuff in general. So I met those guys and we started hanging out. And Nate, he moved away to go to aircraft, like I think it's aircraft mechanic school. And before he left, he said, "Hey, I got these Lincoln Town Car rims and these brand new Blizzaks. They're basically brand new. They only have a few hundred miles or something like that on them. They're not very much miles on them." He said, "If you want the rims and the tires, I'll sell you the rims and everything. They're a hell of a lot better than the ones you had on there. So they're actually really nice. They almost have no spots on them where they've been flaking or anything at all." And he said, "I'll give you the rims, the tires, and everything for $400. It's like $800 worth of tires. I'm damn near $800 anyway." And he sold me the rims and the tires for $400. And then he threw in the OEM headlights along with it. That already have HIDs and everything installed. He already did everything before he got rid of his car. Are those original headlights? No, I already answered that. No, they're not. They're Chinese knockoffs. Ford has always had crap OBD programming. There are times you can completely disconnect a sensor and no code will set. That's true. I've disconnected stuff. You don't get any kind of code or anything like that. The worst thing with Ford, though, honestly, the biggest pet peeve that I have with Ford is the fact that when you're trying to program a vehicle, when you're trying to get in there and do some kind of security stuff or key stuff or get in to do some kind of module programming, I don't know if the other technicians here have the same problem, but it's like I have to try a freaking dozen times sometimes, in again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and it's finally, okay, now it's programming. Like, what the hell's wrong with this thing? Like, it's the servers. All the Ford people and stuff trying to get on at the same time sometimes makes it very difficult. And then programming failed, programming failed, programming failed, and then all of a sudden you get through and everything's programmed just fine. It's a constant problem. And that's one of the things that Ford doesn't even take into consideration. Sometimes it's an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours we're programming, and Ford does not pay us for that. If it's a 3/10 paid quick programming and we're sitting there an hour later, we don't get an hour for that. It's 3/10. It's 18 minutes or whatever. That's it. That's what you get paid. And they won't pay you anymore. Reminds me of the old song Hot Rod Lincoln. Wow, I'm trying to get there. How are you feeling about this whole electric car craze? Are you in training? No. I mean, we get some electric training on the batteries and stuff like that, but no. I mean, a lot of us still have to go to the what do you call it, the modules, the live modules, to actually go to the physical training part of it. We can get all the stuff done online you possibly can, but until you actually sit down on the live modules in a classroom with Ford to actually put your hands on this stuff, it's all hit or miss. Repair the rod bearing or replace it. I mean, I would think that if you rebuild the motor and you're pretty confident with your work, I'd rather do that than get something used. But get something used, or if you, I don't know, you could buy a Jasper reman pretty cheap on those, and they're pretty reliable. I think you get like a 2-year, 24,000 mile warranty. But I like rebuilding stuff, man. That's my thing. It's like, if you're gonna take the time to pull it out, pull it all apart anyway. I like rebuilding things. That's my personal, like, that's my connection with my vehicle. Yeah, I can pull something out and replace it all day, but if I can actually get it apart, look and see what's going on inside and rebuild it and be that much more connected to my vehicle, I'm kind of emotional when it comes to vehicles. Some people just throw them away or they don't care. That's not me. I get connected to them, so I like actually putting the work into them. It's a personal thing. You can save money by rebuilding it, but probably the best, safe, secure way is just by putting a reman in or something like that. There's a lot of places that went on strike. Today when we were, yesterday when we were going to the Oak Brook Blanco, that Mexican restaurant, there the Chevy guys were standing outside the restaurant after close of business. It wasn't even during business hours, and they were picketing right on the street. All the mechanics were out on the street on strike. And then some of the dealers still around, like the Dundee area, Elgin area, some of them are still on strike as well. Depends on what you're trying to change the lifters in. If they're knocking, I'd try to run some like MMO through it, or put a couple quarts of trans fluid in one of your oil changes to um, see if you can't clean some stuff out of there. I've seen some of the old school guys do a lot of work with transmission fluid. I remember my uncle went out, the engine started knocking, it was a lifter that was starting to collapse. There was some valve clatter going on. And he went out there and drained like 2 or 3 quarts of oil out of the motor, and dumped a couple quarts of trans fluid in there and ran that sucker for about 30 minutes. Cleaned out all this junk that was inside those lifters and stuff like that. And then when he was done, he replaced one of the quarts of oil with a quart of trans fluid and ran it for a week and then drained it. No more lifter noise. I'm not saying that's going to fix your problem, but the old school guys were onto something when they did that stuff, because that trans fluid really does clean out, and it helps lubricate as well. It's not going to hurt anything, and it's got a lot of additive inside it that actually helps condition the seals as well. Yeah, Ford's going out of business, and it pisses me off. That's why they're building all these brand new buildings on their fucking idiots. Guys, family keeps looking at me out here on the phone, and I know what that look means. That look means get off the phone and come hang out with us. Uh, you know that look when you've spent too much time away and not getting people attention, and they're like, if I have to give you one of these looks one more time, you know what that look is? That means you've already exceeded your internet time for the day. Get off the internet. So, should I start at a place? Well, hold on, let me answer this real quick before this phone dies. Like Monroe, or go straight to a dealer? I don't know. I mean, I feel like you're gonna get the best training. And hear me out here. Don't judge me for this. I've worked at the independent shops, and now I'm trying to build my own independent shop on my spare time while I'm working at a dealer. You're going to get the best training through a dealer because they're going to send you to the manufacturer schools, but you have to push the fact that you want to go to training. A lot of guys go into a dealer, they're promised training and everything else, and the dealers blow a bunch of smoke up their ass, and then they don't do anything for these young guys. They put them in the quick lane, and they forget about them, and they die there for years. So if I tell you this one thing right now, I tell you this from an experienced dealer check. If you go into a dealership, you sign a contract, and you let them put you through school. If within the first 3 months you don't see any type of action on them setting you up to go into a class, leave. Do not stay there. They are not going to put you through school. They do not care about you. You have to fight for yourself, because they are not going to fight for you. You have to be a go-getter. You can't be like the other shitbags that want to take extra time on lunch and not listen or not help the master techs out or anything like that, or not go the extra mile for the customers. You got to be proactive. You got to show them that you want it. You got to go in there and you got to take it. And if you don't do that, they're going to forget about you. They're not going to send you to school. They're not going to show any interest in you at all, and you're not going to get any kind of further education out of it. Independent shops, they care about you, but you got to find the ones that have money. You got to find the independent shops that want to put the money into the technicians to send them to manufacturer school. Now, if you expect to hit the floor at an independent shop and just gain all this crazy experience, you're going to get that. But it's going to take you a long time to specialize in anything. I'm fortunate that I went to the independent shop first, and I got to see what it was like for a few years before I went to the dealer. Once I went to the dealer, I was able to look at something and say, I specialize in something. I can honestly say I'm good at this product and I know what it is. Most of the time, before you even tell me what's going on, the first few words that come out of your mouth, I'm already drawing up what's wrong with the vehicle, because I specialize in that. A lot of independent guys, they get a lot of experience, they see a lot of different stuff, but they never actually get to sit down and specialize in anything unless it's an actual import independent shop or a European independent shop. Then those guys do. They're probably better than the dealer specialized guys that specialize in the dealer European stuff, or Honda or Ford. It's a shop, an independent shop that specializes in specific products. Those guys are gold. They're 10 times better than the dealer techs, and they're 10 times better than most independent techs. But those guys at the independent shops that can specialize in something, they are a different breed when it comes to up here, because they have a little bit more free reign to figure out problems instead of being held by the realms of a manufacturer or the reins of a manufacturer. So you have to be careful with that. I would say go dealer. Dealer is going to be your best bet for benefits. Dealer is going to be your best bet for training. Dealer is going to be your best bet for security. But you find a dealer that's going to put the effort into you. And if they don't do it, if you don't see something happening with the first 3 months or so, walk, get out, go to another dealer. They don't care about you. I'm telling you, that's how it works. You'll get comfortable in a quick lane or as an apprentice, and they'll never move you up. It does take years to master. All right, guys. I'm going to get off here. Thank you. I appreciate y'all as always. Love y'all. Be blessed. That's just, it died here.